Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to look at a very simple strategy that is based on the MACD. So I'm just going to quickly open up the properties so that we can see the parameters that this indicator takes in. As you can see, it takes in the fast EMA, it takes in a MACD SMA, a slow EMA, it takes in apply to, so we can apply to close, open, high, low, medium price, and the rest, right? And then our signal line is colored red, and then the main is colored blue. So I'm going to keep these as they are, and then I'm quickly going to explain what our strategy is based off from. So looking at this now, for our sell trade, we want to sell when the signal line is above the MACD value. So as you can see in this case, the signal line is above. So our sell trade will start from here and then it will close when the MACD value is above the signal line. As you can see, that's at this point here. The MACD value starts rising and then it's above the signal line at this point here. So our trade will open, our sell trade will open from here and close somewhere here. Yeah, it will close somewhere here. That's our sell trade. And then our buy trade, again, similarly, I can show you here. It's when our MACD value is above the signal line. At this point, you can see here that our MACD value was below the signal line and then it rose above. So when our MACD value rises above the signal line, we open our buy trade. And then it means that our trade would have opened from here, yes, from here, let's say from this candlestick here until the signal line rises above the MACD value. So you can see here it rose above, or it's starting to rise above the MACD value. So we would have closed our trade here. That is basically what the strategy is. And now we are going to jump right into the code so that we can see how we can make this work. All right, so here we go. If you watched my previous videos, you would know why we use the include and why we create a trade object, right? And then these are our parameters. But I'll go through them shortly after I have looked at the three important functions that I like to create or use when I'm creating a trading robot. So the first one would be a function that controls the open of a trade, and then a function that controls the closing of a trade, and then lastly, a function that limits the number of trades that are open, right? And then looking at the parameters, if you look here, you see that the MACD takes in 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? But I've only focused on 3, which are these 3 here. So I've taken the fast EMA, slow EMA, the signal EMA, and then the trading parameters are, you can see here, it's the lot size and the max trade. So the lot size is is the trade volume, and then the max trade is the maximum number of trades we want to have open, right? So I've set them to 1, but that can be changed because I have added the inputs here. And then our global variables is the MACD handle, bars total, and trade. So the bars total stores previous bar count, and then we have the trade, which controls whether a new trade is allowed to open. Now, jumping into our trade opener function, you'll see that I have my 2 arrays, which takes in the copy buffer values, right? So we have the MACD main and the MACD signal. So this takes in 2 values and this takes in 2 values, right? And then looking at what our copy buffer takes in, I'll just go through this quickly, but if you want to understand more of what the copy buffer function does, please watch the video that is titled Copy Buffer. I made a video on that explaining this in depth. So it takes in the signal, the main here, and it takes in the signal here, and then it looks at the first two candlesticks. Basically, it looks at the first two candlesticks, and then you can see here that we only open a trade only on the new candlestick, right? So our trade is as follows. So if you look here, you'll see that the copy buffer takes in two values, right? So in this case, it would take in the current candlestick's value and the previous candlestick's value. That's what it does. Now, looking at this, so this is the buy condition here, right? When the MACD main is smaller than the MACD signal and the MACD main is greater than the MACD signal. Again, please look at this. The first condition focuses on the, let's say, on the previous candlestick, right? Then this condition now focuses on the current candlestick, right? Or the current information, right? So let me just do this here to make it easier for us to understand. So our array is equals to, let's say, 0 and 2, right? So this here looks at, and then here also do another y. I'll do another y, then we'll have 1 and 5, right? And close. There we go. So let's assume this is the main and this is the signal, right? So this part here before the end focuses on the values here. Or let's treat this as, it focuses on the value here. Or let's treat this as a candlestick, right? It checks. So let's say this is the current candlestick, and this is the current candlestick. The value for y, this is the current candlestick's value for y, and this is the current candlestick's value for x. So I think I'm trying to explain this in such a way that is understandable. So I hope this makes sense. And then this is the previous value for the previous, or this is the current, or this is the x value of the previous candlestick, right? And then this is the y value of the previous candlestick. So this is the current candlestick's y value, current candlestick's x value, previous candlestick's x value, previous candlestick's y value. So this focuses on the previous candlestick's information, the MACD main and the MACD signal. And this focuses on the current candlestick's information, the MACD main and the MACD signal. I hope it makes sense. So let me just quickly get these out of the way. Right? So when our MACD main is above the signal, that's when our buy opens. And I try my best to explain that here, that when the MACD main, which is this blue here, is above the signal, right? That's when we open our buy trades. In this case, it's above the signal line. Then we open our buy trades. And then the same is with the sell. When, let me just go back to this. The sell is when the MACD main is smaller than the MACD signal, that's when we open our sell trade. So that's how our buy and our sell trades are opened. Now, looking at the trade closes, right? Again, we use our copy buffer to store information. So we will use our ticket, our positions tickets to close the position, right? Every open position has a ticket number. So we'll use that to get that opened trades information to check whether it's a buy or sell. And then based on whether it's a buy, we'll check the conditions to close a buy. And then if it's a sell, we'll check the conditions to close the sell, and then that's how the trade is closed. So in this case, we get the integer position, or basically use the integer position to get the position type. And if it's type buy, right, and then the main is lower or is smaller than the signal, we will close our trade. We will close our buy trade. Again, if the MACD main is smaller than the signal, let's look at that here so you understand it. If the main, see, the blue is the main, right? So let's say we opened our buy here. In this case now, the main has always been higher. When it closes below, or when the main is smaller than the signal, that's when we close our buy trade, right? I hope this makes sense. And then for the sell, when the main is above the signal, we close the sell. So let's look at that here. So when the main, in this case, our main, okay, actually, let's look at that again. So when the main is greater than the signal, we close our sell. So when the main, so the sell would have started from here. We sold from here, right? Would have sold from here. And now the main started to be higher. It increased until it gradually increased and is higher than the signal. So at this point, that's where we close our sell trade, right? That's the condition for the sell. And looking at our trade limiter, if trade is equals to false, and then we have if trade is equals to true, right? So this function looks at whether we can open more trades or whether we can, it's either we open more or we can't, right? So at this point in time, our trade value is equals to true, right? So it means we can open a trade. But if the position total is greater or equals to the max trade, so in this case, again, our max trade is set to 1, right? If we reach this. So let's say we open one trade and then our, where is that? Yeah, here we go. So let's say we open one trade. At this point in time, when we open one trade, it will be equals to max trade. Then it will set trade equals to false, right? And then it will change again once a trade has been closed. So once a trade has been closed or a position has been closed, it will set trade to true, which will then allow us to open another trade, right? So then again, in it, that's where we just create the MACD indicator handle that takes in the information, symbol, period current, fast EMA, slow EMA, signal EMA, and then we're going to apply the price close to this, right? And then the onTick function, is always constantly moving. So we are going to call our 3 functions there, right? And then we will count bars as the ticks move. Yeah. So that's basically the logic behind this EA. And now I'm just going to run it so we can see how it's going to behave. So let me just... Okay, so I'm going to make this easy. I'm going to create a template that has the MACD in it. I'm going to do that so that we can see it here as it visualizes this. So I'm going to just stop the debugging. So here, I'm going to save this as MACD. I'll save it. All right, guys, now we are going to test out this strategy and see if it's going to work. So hopefully you can identify something. There is something that is going to hinder this code from working properly, but hopefully you can identify it. So let's jump in and test it out and see how it performs. I'm going to start debugging. Okay, and then algo trading has been enabled. I'm going to click on my strategy tester. Okay, this is the correct one. We're going to test it out on the Euro USD. Let's do the 1 minute time frame, and let me just make sure it's on visualize. Yes. And then I'm going to start. So I'll just slow it down so that I can change it into something we can see. and track. Let's do charts and then let's do templates. So I added a MACD template that shows us the strategy. Right, there we go. So it's the same. This is the MACD that I created earlier on so that we can see if this EA really does what it's supposed to. So I'm just going to make it faster. Okay, it is closing, it is opening and closing trades, but you can see that it opens and it closes the trade immediately. I'll give you a second to try and find out what the problem could be. Right? So it's not doing what we want it to do. What could be the problem? Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back. So looking at our buy and sell conditions, we are opening a buy based on the two copy buffer values. And this is basically creating a problem. So I think what we can do is to focus on the current information or the current values in the copy buffer arrays, right? So now this should give us what we are looking for. I'm going to stop debugging and I'm going to start again. So here I'll say, okay, let's double check it's on visualize. Then the inputs, okay, I'll leave it as is. Maybe I'll just increase the trade volume to 0.2. I'll leave the maximum. Okay, actually, let me increase the. No, let me leave it for now. Then afterwards, we'll test it afterwards. Yeah, we'll change it afterwards. So I'll start. Okay, let me just. It's opening trades now, but let me quickly change the template to the MACD. Okay, so it opened the sell. Okay, it opened the sell because our signal line is still above the MACD value. It should close when the main, the MACD main or the MACD value is above. So when it's above, it should close the sell. Let's wait for it. Let's wait for it. There we go. It closed it because at this point here, the main value was greater than the signal line, and you can see it opened the buy because this is our buy condition. When the signal line is below the main value, you should open a buy, and it's opening another sell because the main value has gone below the signal line. So this is our sell, and then if we watch it for a while, it's gonna keep on opening. Okay, just slow it down again. Here it opened the sell, right? Because it should close the sell. Yeah, because it went above. So let me make it fast again. Slow. So here's another sell. This one is okay. This one is a buy. So this is a sell. Again, see the sell started from here. So let's see where this one closes. This is the signal line. The sell must close when the signal line is below the main value. So let's just watch this a bit, and yeah, this should be, let me just make it go faster, just a bit faster. Okay, so it closed, but we missed it. Yeah, it closed, but we missed it. But yeah, guys, this is how this EA is supposed to function. Open a trade, open a buy trade when the signal is below the main value, as it did here, and close when the main value rises above this. It should close this buy when the signal line rises above the main value. So in this case, the trade is still going to remain a buy until, yeah, see, until now, because our signal line rose above the main value. So I'll just close this here and leave it at that. So yeah, guys, you can play around with this. I just put these values, so these are not specific to any specific strategy or from anywhere else. I just put 12, 26, and 9 as ease, right? So you can tweak this if you have a trading strategy that is based on the MACD. You can input those parameters, and then hopefully this should give you a very much profitable trading robot. But yeah, guys, that is it from me. You'll see me in the next video.